It was enough, thank you. Okay, so interesting. Excalidraw this time, it doesn't seem to remember that I was here last time. Is that because, right, because it gets, I have two different profiles, great. So Excalidraw, this should now remember. That's a little better. So this will help without having to do things again. So, okay, starting with components and props. Let me start a brand new project. Here it is. So I'll just go into uniform assignments, good place for it. And I'll say npm create. Okay, it looks like it kicked me, but I'm back. Share my screen again. Okay, you guys can see my screen and hear me, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so all I did was npm create Vite. I guess I can do that again. npm create Vite is going to let me create a new Vite project. The name of this one, I guess, will be pre-assessment tutorial review. Choose React, choose JavaScript. Okay, now we should have something at this level called pre-assessment review. There it is. And the first thing I'll do is just open it up in Visual Studio Code. So this is our starting point, package.json. It's telling me some things. We have npm run dev, npm run build, etc. Nothing really to note in Vite config. So before moving any further, the first thing I'll do is grab my dependencies, because as you see, there's no node modules folder. That means there are no dependencies currently installed. npm I will get all my current dependencies. These are all the dependencies I need to start. Okay. Now we do have a node modules folder. Everything's in there. Now we're ready to run npm run dev. Here we are. We have our working React site. Maybe I'll get ready by just opening up this console. So this is our working React site. If I want, I can clean it up a bit by removing some of this stuff. Okay, coming back here. So we have this public folder. As it turns out, it's not really necessary. This is just a thing Vite is giving us. I'll leave it there, but I won't use what's inside of it. And then the entry to our program is index.html. Index.html just has this div in it, and it has this script in it. And as we've seen before, this is how we bootstrap React. There's this div ID root, and there's this script, but initially nothing really happens on the page. This is all that it looks like, just a div ID root and a script. But that script is going to run when it's included. So let's go look at that script. Okay. That script requires one import over here, another import over here, a component we're importing, our own called app, and some index.css. So let's say I'll remove that for now. And I'll also remove this strict mode thing because it's not necessary. So now this is all that we're doing. We're going to be able to leave this like it is. It's grabbing that root div and associating it with our top level component app. And that is how our app gets bootstrapped, as I would say. Okay, now we look in app.jsx. There's some stuff going on here I don't really need, so I'll remove these. For now, I'll remove this use state. I'll also remove this CSS. We just want to make this a very simple app. I'm going to move export defaults up here, but they were doing it down here, and that's a perfectly fine way to do it. Ultimately, we just want to make it that it's exported by default. which means that over here, when it's asked for, we can just write it like this, as opposed to having to say like that or something. So it's the main thing we're exporting from app. Here's app, I took this out. Let's take everything out besides that main div. And then I'll just put an H1 in there to say hello world. And really this class name is not necessary. Okay, coming back here, now we have our basic working app. Nick is asking if we use a router, our root would be a React router. Yes. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But actually, let me just check, because I believe it is the case. If I were to open up, is this my, yes. So actually, if you open this up, you'll see that in the assessment, we already made router provider the base. We're already providing it router. Router's already set up to show app as the main thing and homepage as the sub thing. App is already set up in this case just to show the nav bar, but this is where we would expect you to, grab the outlet and do that. So some of it's pre-set up for you. So you shouldn't have to change main.jsx at all in this assessment. Okay. So we have our basic setup there. Do we want to talk more about this setup phase of like how we actually got this? Okay, well, just to talk about it a very little bit, let's say we come back here to Excalidraw. This is the part I'm talking about here, so let me delete most of what's in here just to make it match our example. Okay, so what actually happens? Initially, based on our app, we requested something from the server. That's what happens here. So when I go to localhost 5173, even though it's being done by Vite, that is some server on / it's serving up our React app. In fact, on anything, it's serving up our React app. But on / it's serving up a React app. What does that mean? That means it's going to go to the root of our folder and it's going to look for a file index.html. That is this folder. You generally don't touch it, but that is this folder. That's why over here it says title Vite plus React. And if we go back to our browser, that is indeed the title. And if I wanted to change that, I could do that at this level. I could say assessment for review session. I'm going to save it. Coming back here, the title has indeed updated. But we don't want to do very much in this file. We want to do most of it in the React world. So coming back to our code, I see that all my body has to begin with is this div ID root and this script, and then that script gets run. So this div ID root is all I really have on my page to start, and that's represented over here, div ID root. So coming back to our code, let's look at this file main.jsx to see what happens when it runs. Okay, it imports React and React DOM because we're going to need both of those, and it also imports app. This React DOM.create root is going to grab that specific element. And this is just standard JavaScript stuff where it's taking the document, it's getting an element by ID, the element with root, and then it's going to render as a child of it, this thing called app. So if we're looking at what app actually is, let's just copy paste that. What's happening here ultimately, it's not quite it's not quite pure HTML yet. It's not something that our browser actually understands, but it's almost like we're saying render app. What happens when we render app? Just put that in parentheses because it's not quite real at this level. But we want to render app. What does that mean? Well, when we render app, it's like this. I'm saying This is like what I have down here, render app. What is app? So before I get into any of this stuff, let's say this does not exist yet. I go to that file app.jsx. We're not doing anything in it yet. I'm rendering app. Well, that's like when I render app, what is app? App, we write it like component, right? And if I click on it, I see, well, actually it's a function. So when I see this app, it's as if I called a function. It's as if I actually did this. And now that's what we would normally do. It's a function, but because it represents HTML, React wants us to do it like this, although I think either way actually works. Okay, so this app is a function, and while we haven't gotten into any props yet, we're calling that function with no arguments. So we're calling this function over here. So coming back here, what do we see? I'll get rid of this content to start. What do we actually see? Right, this is something we want to see. But oh no, this is just my comparison to HTML versus React. Do I have this somewhere? Maybe I don't. What I want to say here is that if I see app, that is going to be the equivalent of calling this function app with no arguments. So what happens when I call a function normally? Coming back here, when you call a function, it might do stuff. This one doesn't really do anything, and then it returns something. And once you call a function, it's done, but whatever was returned from it gets replaced at the site you called it. So what happens there now is anywhere where app was, once it's called, gets replaced with this content. So let me copy that content, come back here, app, we called it, and we're saying return, let me make that a little smaller, return, just put it in something like this, return content like this. Okay, so when this gets run, now I can replace this. This app does not exist anymore because it's been replaced with this. So when we're all done, this is the final view of our page. And indeed, I look here, I inspect, div with ID root, a div inside of it, and h1 inside of that. So I hope that's helpful for people. I see Grace saying, ooh, maybe that we have not seen that yet. And that's fair because we moved through things pretty fast. And so we might not have spent enough time on really the essentials. But this is what's happening. Great, I'm happy that this is helpful. Okay, so let's expand on this a little bit. Let's say, going back to my code, app is not just going to return this. First, let's say something like this, okay. So first we're gonna write something to the console. What happens? Well, just like before, we're calling this function, right? We're calling a function with no arguments. So we would expect the whole body of this function to get ran, which means this gets run, then we return something, and whatever we returned replaces over here. So I represent that with a line here, just to say, here we have our console.log hello world, or whatever I wrote. So we are doing something, and then we're returning something. The doing part can be anything JavaScript. The return part, because of how React works, it has to be this HTML-like thing we call JSX. Looking at our page, refresh. Okay, we still see hello world there as expected, but we also printed something. So what we're establishing here is just you can do something before and then also return something, because this is where our use states and things like that are going to go. Our use states are going to be something we run before we return something. So the next thing we might want to see is, well, what if I come back here and I say, I don't just want to render everything in app, I want to break this up a bit. So I keep using profile. Is there another thing, like what kind of app do we want to make right now? What kind of simple app do we want to make? Cats. Okay, you said it, cats. So I'm going to make a new folder. You don't have to do this. Folder organization doesn't really matter. It could all be at that same top level. I like to put things in a separate folder called components. I'm going to make a new React component in here, and I'm going to call it catcard.jsx. So ultimately, we want to reference this outside. So I'm going to say export default. What are we exporting default? A function. So that's how we represent a React component. Just for convenience, I call it exactly what I call the file, though that's not absolutely necessary. This is still taking no inputs. Maybe in here, I'll say console.log. I am a cat component. And then finally, I return something. What do I return? Well, in this case, let me say I'll return a div. What's inside of that div? Maybe it's an H1 or an H2. And I'll say cat stuff. And maybe I say H3, cat's name. So these are placeholders. I ultimately will want the name there. What's something else we associate with a cat? Grace, we know you have a cat. Features of the cat, right? Features including, you know, what was that?
Tail, color, pattern, maybe.
Pattern, wow, yeah. So, right, pattern. Maybe this is a calico cat, right? Is that what they're called? Okay. Number of legs, let's hope 4, not always. That's usually the max. Okay, li disposition. You know, because this is a cat, let's just assume a default
Pompous.
of something pompous, right? Pompous, doesn't need you. What else? Li favorite food. You know, it probably is mice, let's be honest. It's not cat food. 5 mice. Okay, so I have all this information here. Let's just see it reflected. Well, it's not going to be reflected if I just have this cat card because I haven't associated it with my site. App is our root, so I want to include it here. To do that, first I want to import it. So Visual Studio Code is usually going to be good at getting it for you. And then just like we did in main.jsx with app, we'll reference it like this. This is my cat card, save. Coming back here, I see, yep, we're showing a whole cat. And honestly, because I have multiple of them, even though this is not absolutely necessary, I think this is a time where I would write some CSS. So I'm gonna refresh just to show we did see hello world. Then we saw I'm a cat component. So while we got this all at the end, it's worth noting this order because what this is telling us is that, coming back here, first we rendered app, right? When we rendered app, we ran this code and then we returned this. But when React, really when this part, when the render is parsing what's returned, it encounters this and says, what's that? Oh, I actually need to turn that into, actually, it happens at this point. When we hit this part, so we're returning it, but when we hit this part, this is like calling a function. So just like calling a function, this actually calls this function. That's when this gets run and all of this gets returned. So that's why it happens in that order where we see hello world followed by I am a cat component. But I want to add some CSS just because I want to keep track of what the cat is. So I'm going to say class name, in fact, because that's how we work in React. And I'll say, I'll just call it cat or maybe cat card. And I think I took all those out. So maybe I do want to import my index.css. So you can just work with CSS like this in a Vite project. Or you know what, actually, I'm not going to work with app at all. In main, that's where I'll do that import. I'll import index.css, and index.css, I'll get rid of everything and just make my own thing, cat card. So that's all that's going on here. And just to help me, I'm going to say border, 2 pixels solid red. And I like that just because this is going to allow me now to see this cat card uniquely. So this is our whole app. That's a cat card. This class name should be associated with this class. So if I come back here, it's not quite happy. Failed to resolve import index.css. Let's see why, because I didn't do it relative. Now is it happy? There we go. So this represents a single cat. Okay, let's talk about that over here. I have a component here, and just like I called app over here, it's going to be the same thing where if I call a cat component, it's going to be just like that. So cat card is the same as calling this thing cat card. So we called this function. Well, what is a cat card? Let's get rid of that for now. Oops. What is a cat card? Okay, well, the index.html, it itself had an app in it, and it rendered. Now, looking at my definition of app.jsx, what does my app.jsx look like? Well, it itself has this cat card in it. Let's pull that over here. So we're not done rendering this until we see what a cat card is. Cat card is going to look like this. And a cat card is going to be another one of these things. Maybe we'll do that again. We have, a line there. Say cat card.jsx. At the top of cat card, we actually did something. So I'll represent that here. It's overflowing a little, so maybe I'll move this. It's just my association. This will be a little bigger. Okay. And then what did we return? Let's see. Coming back here, we return this whole thing over here. Here we go. It's pretty long. Okay, that's my cat card component. And this all gets, what am I gonna say? This all gets like compiled essentially, where first we just had app, right? Then app returns all of this. And so initially we could think it's as if we return this, but we add cat card in there. But we don't actually return a cat card at the end of the day because that's not HTML. It's not going to understand it. So instead we return all of this. So wherever I had cat card, I actually have all of that minus the return. So I want to remove that. Let's get that nice. Or as nice as we can get it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe I'll make it a little simpler for myself, do something like this. So let's just pretend these are there without them getting so long. But everything's going to be in there. And so ultimately, what is happening when we render app.jsx is we render all of its subcomponents too, and all of that is put in index.html because index.html is what the site will actually look like, including the class name of cat card. But because it ultimately is turned into HTML, not JSX, that's just going to look like class. And let's confirm that. If I come back here, oh, it's right here. If I'm going to look at my elements, okay, we have a body, we have a div ID root, there's a div in there, a hello world in there, there's a div in here, and it's just class cat card. So notice that no React survives this conversion to HTML, but we get to think in React. So we don't have to worry about this process, but we do want to see that ultimately everything's turned into HTML. Like, I didn't add this marker thing. I don't really know what it is. But ultimately, everything we did is turned into HTML. So this is that process. We render in index.html, we render just app. It's replaced with everything that is returned from app, and it also runs what happens in app. When it sees cat card, it runs what happens in cat card, and then it also ultimately replaces everything in there. And that all bubbles up until we have one big HTML file. And that's a single render. Yeah, what is daisy chaining exactly, Grace?
Kind of
You
just
mentioned it in the
everything's
chat.
linked together. So the index.html, whatever's in there links to the app.jsx, whatever's in there links to cat card.jsx. It's just like a big chain.
Exactly, yeah. And ultimately this would be like a daisy, not quite a daisy chain, but like a daisy tree, right? Because a daisy chain, that's like a linked list. Everything is listed, one pointing to the next, but we could actually have more than one thing. So what if I had over here, what if I said, I don't just have one cat card, but I have, like, 3 cat cards? And that doesn't make so much sense before we learn to customize them. Yeah. But yeah, what if we had 3 cat cards in a row? Well, I mean, I don't want to repeat, I don't want to, show 3 different things, but these are 3 completely separate renders, one from the other. So it will each time, call that function and get what it gets back. So let's see that. If I come here, I can copy paste cat card 3 times or 2 more times. If I look at my page, boom, I got 3 cat cards. They overlap a little, but I have 3 cat cards. And that's a pretty good thing already, because even before we introduce props, we're showing the real value of components, which is we're able to make a reusable container for HTML. In traditional HTML, I would have to take this whole thing and just copy paste it 3 times. And that means if at some point I wanted to change something, I'd have to change it in all 3 places. With React, I'm defining all of that as a cat card, and I'm able to show that card 3 times, and it has all that data. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to come back here and look in the console. If I refresh, okay, it actually does print I am a cat component 3 times, because each one of those times it was rendering a totally separate component. So that's components. That's the essentials of components. And that is represented here. We got our index.html. We ran that main.jsx. Maybe we included some index.css. We rendered app. I guess this can be much, much smaller. We rendered app. And when it was all said and done, we got an index.html with div ID root. And then because we render app inside of it, we render app, it does stuff, it returns stuff. What it returns might itself call these, component functions. They do something, they return something. And all that's daisy treed back up to index.html, which represents the actual page, including having done some activities. Yeah, Chris, this is an example of dry, exactly. So like the first thing to notice in code that is like, what you might call a code smell is repeating yourself. If you find yourself repeating yourself over and over again, you might ask yourself, how can I, make this one thing and then just call it? Because that means when you want to make a change, you only have to make the change in one place, and then everywhere you call it reflects that change. And when it comes to HTML, we didn't have that ability to start with, because HTML is not a programming language, so it doesn't give you an ability to create reusable containers like that. React, that's the first feature it gives us. His name is Cucumber. It's not my cat, my friend's cat. Just on my computer. Okay. So our next feature, yeah, it is a very cat name. Our next feature we want to see is props. So what we've seen so far is I had something called app. I called a function app with no arguments. But maybe working backwards in this little view here, we might imagine, okay, well, functions are useful in part because they're reusable containers. They're also useful because they're customizable reusable containers. So I would like to be able to say, okay, my cat has a name. My cat has a name, and that name is Cucumber. And I would like that to produce a different cat card, right? And the way we do that in React is not quite this. So I might say I have this thing, I have this name Cucumber. What else do I have in there? I gave it a name, and then I gave it some other information, which maybe I might represent as a list. So if I were to come back here, maybe the second argument was a list, right? And that list, I said it's going to have some information, like maybe it is Calico. Maybe it is, honestly, this doesn't really, I wouldn't think of this. I would say maybe I have something like an array, an object called features, and it'll have something like a pattern with Calico. And it'll have a num legs with 4, and it'll have a disposition. Maybe disposition is itself an array, right? Pompous and doesn't need you. And then finally, it has a save food, which is live mice. So this is actually a pretty good example because this would be a fair amount to pass in, right? But notice that the nature of how props works is that I don't want to have like these, like Cucumber. Cucumber is only distinguishable because it's the first argument. I kind of want everything to be named. And in order to do that, instead of cat card getting, multiple positional arguments, we're actually going to give it only one argument. That argument is going to be an object. So let me open this up to make it a little nicer, but we have a name. So we're going to get exactly one object that we usually call props, but it's going to have a name. And maybe it has this other thing that we're going to call, I don't know, what should we call it? I guess we don't have to do it this way. We could just say it's going to have a name. This object is going to have name, pattern, num legs, disposition, which is an array, favorite food, and then that's the whole object we're passing it. And then finally, we call the function. So we're actually just giving it one argument, but objects are a powerful pattern, so they can represent, seemingly multiple arguments. And then how would I represent that over here? So in the same way, my cat card can say, okay, well, there's a name, but because it's sort of like HTML, we do it like that, Cucumber. Seems pretty confused by that. Pattern equals Calico. But then notice this, if I say num legs, okay, I could seemingly say, 4 and have it be a string. And that's how HTML works. But React's going to be a little smarter. It's going to let me treat this like a number, but not if I just do it like that. That's where these curly braces come in. So I'm saying here, okay, interpret this as JavaScript. In this case, just interpret the number 4. And then at the other end, num legs will actually have a 4 in it as opposed to a string with 4. So that's just a concession to the fact that we're working with JavaScript and we can't just write 4 outright. Otherwise, that pattern will confuse, React. Same with disposition, equal to, so I'm going to do the escape again, because I want to say what's inside of here is like JavaScript. And in this case, it's an array. I'm not going to fill it out, but that's what's in the array. And then finally, my saved food, I'll just, that is a string, so easy enough to do like this. Move this over. So this is the connection between, just like our component app is like calling a function app with no arguments, now our component cat card is like calling a function, but we're calling it with a single argument, which is an object with all of these values in it. Okay, so let's actually do that now. Maybe one of you can read that to me. In terms of this cat card, so just like you call an argument and then or like just like you call a function, and then you also have to define the parameters for that function. You have to do both things. So first, let's call this function. We're calling it with these props, right? So what was our first prop? It was name, right? I said name is equal to cucumber. And then I don't do a comma here because it's like HTML. And this could all be on one line. I'm just doing it on more than one line. So my name is cucumber. My pattern is equal to calico. I had a num legs equal to, if I do 4, it's going to get confused. So I say 4. What else did I have in there? I had disposition, which I made equal to an array. Again, if I do array, it gets confused. So I wrap it. And what was in that array? It was something like Pampas doesn't need you. And the last one was fave food, and that would be equal to, I could just do it like a string, live mice. So I'll ignore these two for now, comment them out. But we see if we come here, what's happening? Well, nothing actually changed. These are all hard coded in here. I guess you can't tell, but I guess you could tell because the name is still just name. And that's because what we did is it's like we provided an argument called props, but we didn't use it. So just like calling a function, if you call a function with a bunch of arguments, but the definition of your function, you don't handle those arguments, it's like you just threw them away. So what we want to do is actually have something called props in here, and that's going to be the name, just the canonical name of our one argument. But because it's the argument to a function, it could just as well be X, Y, Z. But we like to call it props. So that's not, it doesn't have to be named that. We just name it that. And what I want to do first is print it just to ensure it is what I think it is. Come back here, refresh. Okay, we printed hello world because that's what we do on app. We printed I'm a cat component because that's the first thing we do on a cat component. Then we printed the props. So those key value pairs are, the key values or the props, the key value pairs of the props separated by equals have all been packaged up into an object. And note that the order I gave them in doesn't matter. It doesn't respect the order. It's just getting all that data as a single object. Okay, so I have all this data, so now I can use it, right? So if I come back here, I might say, okay, well, my props has all that stuff on it. So maybe here I will replace cat's name with the cat's actual name, props.name. Features, I'll replace this with props.pattern. I think that's what we called it. Props.numLegs. Props.faveFood. And for the disposition, let's ignore that one for now. We'll get to that. So note that I'm taking everything I passed in the props. It was an object. I peel off the individual name. And that way I'm able to ultimately produce some HTML that might have some hard-coded stuff, but might have stuff that is variable. We actually got to pass it in. Let's see that. Okay, this seems right. The name is cucumber. These are the features of cucumber. So all except disposition is there. Okay, so we've gotten far enough now that I'll say any questions, as in we have components and props, and these are our essential features of React. I guess you could say components, props, and the curly braces, the React escape that allows you to use the props or pass props. Okay, I'm going to assume we're feeling good about this. Coming back here. this point, I might want to take out some of those unnecessary console.logs because they just sort of pollute our site. Okay. Well, a thing that's cool, actually, before we do anything further, we haven't dealt with this props.disposition thing. And for anyone that likes destructuring, you can obviously destructure this object props, but let's just ignore that feature because it's not necessary. You can always work with props like any other object. You just dot the name of the key. But props.position, okay, what was that? Well, props.position, if I try it, or props.disposition, if I try and do that like this, save it, what do we get at this other end? Okay, I tried to do something and kind of like combine them. That's not really what I wanted, right? What I really want to do is like combine these in some way. So I have to handle the fact that this is an array. And how might I do that? Well, it is an array. I mean, how might I do this? I would say something like, I mean, we could say map. But no, I mean, what's something that like join? Is that something on arrays? Right? So we're going to join everything that's on the array. Is join a thing on the array? Yeah, there we go. So that got me what I wanted. And so we don't use that pattern too often in React. We usually map over something so we can make an individual, component map to that function. But that worked too, because the important point is that props.position was an array. So it supports all the functions of an array.
Could you do props.disposition and then square brackets 0, comma?
Oh yeah, that's actually, you're probably right. That's the better way to do it.
Well,
if we know
either way it works. I was just curious if that would work.
Yeah, that would work. And the important point there is that either way, we're working with an array. So everything we already know about arrays should carry over. Yeah, I like this way better because it's a little clearer, but yeah, my way might be better if we had no idea how many dispositions we might be provided. Okay, that seems pretty good to me. And something we might want to see here is, well, I can have more than one cat card, right? So I'm going to come back here. What's going to happen to these cat cards? So I'm not providing them the arguments they need. Come back here, refresh. Okay, it broke the page. Why? Because at some point I tried to read 0 of undefined. It's happening at line 11. So what's happening is that we're trying to render this. We got to line 11, we said props, which remember is empty because we didn't pass it anything. Dot disposition. Even though props is an empty array, it's able to get these other things, num legs, disposition, they just equal undefined. Problem is when we got here, we said, this is undefined, now get the first thing from undefined. That breaks it. It has no idea how to work with that. So we actually want to pass it these values.
Would it have
do that?
Kept the join, Ben? Sorry to interrupt.
Say that again?
Would it have worked had you kept the dot join?
I don't think so, no.
For anything?
Well, we can show that. I don't think it would because I'm saying dot join here, comma. Props is going to be an empty object for this one because I passed nothing in. Disposition is on, like any key that's not on the string just gets undefined. So props is going to look for a key called disposition because it's empty, it gets undefined. Now the issue happens that because it's undefined, I'm saying dot join. Well, there is no method dot join on undefined. When you try and dot on an undefined, you get a breaking error. And that breaks the whole thing because it can't, because it can't finish rendering cat card. It can't.
The same thing was and card dot disposition and.
We could absolutely. So that's a good point. So that is a pattern we have where we might, we might wrap both of these then, or in this case, let's just get rid of that one for now. We might say, well, not every cat card is fully filled out. So for this one, I'll say like, does it have a disposition? So I don't have it defined anywhere else. But I could just say something like, false and now it's not going to actually show this because it's going to say, because this is false, I don't even look at this. It would make more sense if there was something already. But because there isn't, we're just saying false. Okay, now this works because it never actually renders that thing. But if this was true, we had some condition and we said it's true, we have the same problem. I see someone's looking for a break. I would love a break too. So yeah, we can absolutely do that. It's 4 o'clock. Give me a second, coming back here. I just want to cover 1 or 2 more things, then we'll take a break. And those things are, I might have multiple cats. So here's my cat card. Here's another cat card. And because I have multiple cats, I want to give it all this info. So, maybe I could just drag all this same info down. Maybe we'll just do that for one other right now. And maybe, this cat is named Danger. And I don't know, Brown. I don't know cats. Danger is called Danger for a reason. Actually chill. Live Tigers, because this is who he is. Okay, so this works. This definitely works. But at a certain point, it's like, well, do I have to define it for everything? And this is where the whole, connection between JavaScript and, React gets kind of useful. That up here, I could say like, well, actually, let me just say I have a variable called cats. It's an array. Each array kind of looks like this, right? I might have to change how that looks a little, but I'm going to say each cat is represented like this. Each one of these is now going to look like that, but close enough. It doesn't need these anymore because we're just dealing with JavaScript. And they each need to end in a comma because it's JavaScript. And maybe I'll do that a second time. So I'll have another cat. This is going to be Danger. Great invention off the top of my head. He's brown. He's got one leg. It's actually chill. Doesn't fear anything. Live Tigers. Okay, so we have 2 types of cats, right? And this is just JavaScript. And now I might say like, well, I want to walk through each one of these cats. So maybe I'll comment this out for now, just because we want to keep the pattern around. So I have multiple cats now, right? I can print this out, console.log cats. I come back here, I see like, yeah, I printed these cats, but we're not seeing anything on the screen because we're not rendering associated components. So this is that point now where I might want to map something. So because I have an array I'm working with, I want to say something like, well, I don't want to do cat card, cat card, cat card. Maybe I don't even know how many cats I have. So instead, I'm going to do something like this. Wrap it in parentheses so I can start working with JavaScript. Cats. Okay, well, I can't just show cats. That's not going to work. It's going to say that's not a component. Objects are not valid as a React child. So I'll come back here and I'll say, well, I need to turn these 2 cats into components. And the way I do that is I do map. I'll call each one cat. And then for each one, I'll return a component, cat card. And then there I might give it these values. So I'm going to have to, break it all down here where I open this up and, maybe I do this. And I'll give each one of these things, it'll be, cat.name, cat.pattern, cat.numLegs. This one already has the curlies, cat.disposition. And that's kind of nice too, because as you see, it's starting to autocomplete because it knows some stuff. Okay, so now that I've done this, kind of clean things up where I'm going to print this for as many cats as I have. Let's see it. Yeah, now it works, but it's complaining about that key thing. So honestly, it doesn't truly matter for the most part, but React will complain if you don't give it the key. So all that's saying is that come back here, well, each cat card, like ultimately we're returning a list, right? Anytime you're returning a list, React understands, okay, you want me to render each thing, but it wants to be able to keep track of them for efficiency. And so it wants a key. And what is the cat's key? Well, there's a couple things we can give it. If each cat definitely has a unique name, that'll work fine. So note, now doesn't complain because each cat has a unique name, but that's not always the best solution just because not every cat is going to have a unique name. If you're working with a real database, there's going to be an ID, and that's always the best unique key. In this case, though, I can just give a second argument to map. That's always going to be the second argument to map. And then my key is going to be the index. And when working with an array, an index always will be unique as well. So finally, we have this. We have this nice thing. We're able to print multiple cats. We're able to make them unique in terms of passing them props. So components and props and escaping. We have our core React features here. Coming back here, I feel pretty good about this. And that's a good place to break for now. So I guess I'll look at questions quickly. Yes, so let's break down for how long do you guys want? 10 minutes? Is that too much? No, that's good. Okay, so we're gonna break for 10 minutes. We're gonna come back 4:15 and we'll cover as much as we can. Obviously going at this rate, we're going pretty slowly and that's good for understanding stuff, but we'll try and get through all the essential features. Cool, see you guys in 10 minutes. Okay, this is where we ended. We now have the ability to use components and props, and we learned a little bit about working with more than one component, or rather working with a list to render a list of components like this. So coming back here, what else do I have in here in Excalibur? So there is this React or this props.children thing, but we just about never use it. So let's not talk about it, but that's just how we actually are able to, nest one thing in another thing in React. Let's start talking about use state. So state is kind of important because state represents, some part of our program that changes. So, what might we want to do with our cat program that's stateful? Well, maybe we can create new cats. I don't know. For the sake of that, maybe we'll just add their names. But in that case, maybe I'll simplify everything. That'll be nice. Every cat will just have a name. I'll update that over here. Each cat is just really working with their name. Don't even need that almost. The cat card is enough to represent it. But they do need to get that name. Maybe it'll be like this. Cats will just hold names. And now my cats thing is going to be really simple. It's just going to be a list of names. Okay, let's just make sure this works. Coming back here, right. I just have a list of cat names because this is such a professional app. I want to make sure that we represent that by actually saying cats. And then something I might want here is that maybe on this same page, I work with an input, right? So I'm going to have a little input area. I'll say input, just self-clothing, self-closing, not self-clothing. This input is for text, which I think is the default anyways. And I'm going to want to, keep track of what changes. So I have this onChange function. I'm going to pass a function of that I'll say onChange handler just to break it out, though. Doing this stuff in line is perfectly legitimate. So here I'm defining my onChange handler. It's equal to a function, right? And the nature of an onChange handler, anything that produces an event actually, is we get this single argument of an event. So when something changes, we call this function, and what it's called with is the event that represents the change. And all I'm going to do now is actually print this. Event.target.value will represent what I just did. So coming back here, we'll see we now have that little input. And notably, just I want to mention this, if we come here, this is part of that part. So like, or in app.jsx, like we can define things in the, the pre-return, and that's going to remain true. And so we can integrate anything we defined as JavaScript in that JSX that we return. So here I can start typing hello world, and it picks up every single change. But I want to make some kind of logic that not only keeps track of this, but also I'm going to have some kind of button, and when I click that button, something happens. So coming back here, I might have something like I say, we're going to have a button right below this input, and that button will say add cat. And we're going to have an on click on that button. We'll just do this one in line. Well, what happens when we click? I'm just going to console.log add cat. Okay, refresh. I start typing. It knows about it. Add cat. So the first thing I want to do is every time I type, I want to store that in some kind of variable React keeps track of. And then finally, when I click add cat, I want to add that to this list. So to accomplish that, that's where we start using useState. useState, so we can see over here, useState is like this. It's going to have this pattern. It's first off a hook we get from React. It always has this pattern where the useState function itself is a function, and we pass some initial state. And then what it returns is ultimately an array, but we can use this pattern here to destructure that array. It always has exactly two elements. That first one is going to represent the state as it currently is. And the second one is going to be a function that allows us to update that state. And so we tend to follow this pattern. And here's an example. We created a useState called count. It has a sister function setCount. It has an initial value of 0. And this is what it looks like. Our useState, in this example, there's a counter like 0. There's a button like add 1. And when we click add 1, we're going to want to update count by calling setCount in some way. And that's going to trigger a re-render. It's going to update the value count and trigger a re-render. And even though this isn't exactly what happens, it's sort of like this. On the re-render, now the initial state would be, if we updated it by 1, 1. Count equals 1. SetCount will again allow us to trigger a re-render. And so we just do that over and over again. And each time we create a new version of the React component with that updated state. So let's see how that works with our cats. So first thing I want to do is I want to import this thing useState. So I'll start typing useState. Okay, so it comes from React itself, and we wrap it in the curlies because it's not the default export of React, which I think is just, this object React that contains everything. But it's a single thing we care about in React called useState. And then we'll use it down here. Before updating cats, we'll create a new useState, and this useState is going to represent the initial value of this input. So the initial value of the input, I want it to be the empty string. And then I'm going to get something back. I'll immediately destructure it, and I'll say this is the input value, and I'll call this function setInputValue. So input value is going to be the initial value of our function. And we have a kind of pattern when it comes to inputs where I actually want to set the value. So that is a built-in attribute / prop of input, where I'm going to say here, okay, whatever the input value is, that's always the value of value. So if I don't change anything now, you'll notice this on change, does something in response to typing, but right now the value is set to input value. So the value is set to an empty string. That means, so I come back to my site, I start typing, let's refresh, I start typing, okay, it picks up each letter I'm typing, but it's never updating because value was, set. Value is always the empty string. And we don't really want that. What we want rather is to say, okay, value is always equal to that state input value, but the on change every time I type, that's going to update the input value. And we do that like this. Instead of console.logging it, I'll say set input value, and I update it to whatever I just typed. And having these two things together, I'm going to be in a situation, maybe I do just want to inline that because some people prefer that. So inlining it, I like to just break things out so they're not all on one line. But what I'm going to do now is I don't need to have it be this whole thing. I can just say like, replace this with a single argument event and that's going to be the same thing. Now I don't have to break this out. And so now input will always represent that input value. And every time I type, we will update that state of input value with the new thing I typed in there. And the end result is that now I can start typing hello world. I guess I'm not printing it anymore, so I don't see it. I want to do that. I'll come back here. Because this triggers a re-render each time, I'll just console.log the input value at the end of every, right before the return. Coming back here, refresh, starts out empty. Every time I type, we update that input value. So what I'm guaranteed is that while I type, input value is now this variable React is aware of, and it's always going to hold exactly what I have in there. Now I want to make it that when I click add cat, we actually add the cat. Right now we just print add cat. So how might I do that? Coming back here, I'm going to say, okay, maybe I'll make this a little simpler for myself. I'll put it on another line. Something like this. Doesn't like that. Actually, I know I'm going to have more than one thing in here, so I'll open it up with brackets. Something like this. And I'm going to say, okay, the first thing I want to do when someone clicks this button is I want to use this input value in some way. How do I want to use this input value? Well, I want to create a new cat with it. And for React to be aware of this, this too needs to be like an array. Maybe I'll take an intermediate step. I'll say const, new or, cat. No, I don't really like that. Let's say we're just going to use useState again. So useState can start with some real data in there, in this case, an array. And here I'm going to break these up. I'm going to call them, I'll say cats and set cats. And this still works. I'm still able to work with it because it's just a variable, but now I have this set cats. I think I want to do two things here. First, I want to set cats such that I update this input value. So maybe I'll do something like, okay, well, I have cats. I'll say cats.push the input value. I'll say set cats to cats, which I just updated. And as some of you might know, I might have some issues here. Let's try that. Let's see what happens. Coming back here, refresh, start typing hello, click add cat. Okay, what happened? Well, I'm clicking it, but nothing's changing. Why not? Well, this is an interesting point about working with data that's more advanced than primitive data like strings. So when it came to a string, every time I called set input value, it was just able to recognize, well, this new thing is a new string, so I'm going to re-render. In this case, when I did cat.push, it doesn't recognize it. Why not? So coming back here, and if I look at my Excala draw, I've described this. This is the essential problem. In this case, I'm talking about objects, but it'll be the same thing with arrays. The problem is that if I do if I'm referencing cats, as far as JavaScript is concerned, it doesn't care what it holds. It cares about its memory address. And that way is how it knows what it's working with. So if I were to say, cats, and it has two things in it, and then I say cats.push another thing, cats itself still has the same memory address. And as a result, if I say set cats, because I passed it the same thing it already had, it doesn't want to re-render it. It thinks that's a waste. And so we need to find some way of saying, this is actually a brand new list, so please re-render. And that's kind of like this. I make this copy, and even if the copy is all the same info, that copy is going to have a new memory address. And then from there, I can make any change I want. And that change is going to be respected by set. And that's because the old value, in this case, this memory address is not the same as the new value. And so it knows it's a different thing. Let me do that now. So instead of saying cats.push input value, I'm going to say something like, well, I want to make a copy, right? Const copy is equal to, and this is a good time to use spreading. What spreading is going to do is take everything that's currently in cats. Now that's in a brand new array, the same contents is in a brand new array called copy. And I guess for right now, I'll get that out. And I just want to say console.log cats, console.log copy. Maybe we'll do this. We'll say cats copy, so we know what we're talking about. Then the final thing I want to check is something like same. Cats is equal to copy. Save. So what happens when I do the clicking now? Remember, clicking is just going to check these two things. So I'm going to say hello, and then I click add cat. Okay, cats equals cucumber in danger. Copy equals cucumbers in danger, but they're not the same. They're not the same because it was a new list. And that would not be the case if I just did this. So if I didn't do the spreading, and I did this, kind of come back here, we're going to refresh, just do add cat. Okay, they still have the same contents, and they're the same. So they are the same in this case. Coming back here, I'm going to say, well, what if I said at that point, copy equals cats, and I say copy dot push, and what I wanted to push was that input value. Now I'm going to print cats, I'm going to print copy. Are they the same? What happens? Say hello, add cat. Okay, they are the same, and they actually contain the same thing, and that's because cats and copy just point to the same thing. That's that issue over here, where they're pointing to the same thing. So even though I seemingly create a new variable for it, it's pointing to the same data. It has the same memory address. It doesn't respect that a change happened because the change happened in both of them. So what we actually want to do is this. We first copy cats using the spread. Then I say something like copy.push. Now I can do that. And I'm going to push input value onto it. And then finally, we're going to say set cats to the copy. So what happens now? Refresh. I say hello. I click add cat. What happens? Well, the first thing cats looks like this. The copy, only the copy has that new update. Are they the same? No. So it actually adds it to the list. And because it adds it to the list, the whole thing re-renders. And because it re-renders, we now see all of our cats, including our latest cat. So that's the pattern you're going to see where when you call set cats, we're actually going to be triggering a re-render. Cats now equals that new value, the whole list. And this map will take care of the fact that there's now an extra cat, and so we see it visually. And I'm going to update this now. I don't need any of these, but even this is a little more than I need because really I don't need to do it like this. I could just say, take that list of cats, right? Take all this out. I'm going to say, okay, the list of cats, that's going to be this list. But that's not all it has to be. I can put another thing in there. I put input value in there. So now it's going to spread everything in the original list of cats, add input value at the end, and that's a brand new list. Then the final thing I'm going to want to do is set input value. I want to blank that out when I'm done because otherwise it's just going to keep having, whatever I typed in there, and that's not a great user experience. So after we add it, we blank it out. Now I have something that works like expected. I'll say, danger's child, son of danger. Daughter of kook. Daughter of kook. Okay. So that's our, pancakes. That's what I wanted to talk about with useState, and that's kind of everything we need to know about useState. So any questions on that? what we've covered with use state? Do we feel good about it?
Just to be clear, Ben, what you have now is just the same as what you had before when it was still functioning correctly, but now it's just in line and it's just taking less lines of code to get the same result, correct?
Yep. I mean,
Okay.
if what you're asking is, can I pull this out and make it a separate function and then just reference that function in the onClick, the answer is yes.
That was my question. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's no difference between doing something inline or, you know, giving it a variable name and then referencing that variable, because variables are just references. We're just pointing to the same thing. Some people prefer inline, some people don't. It's up to you.
Ben, if cats was not an array,
Mhm.
and you needed to, you know, change what cats was using set cats, and you made a copy of it, but the copy still just pointed to the same memory address, like let's say it was just like a number or something or a name. Could you still use that spread operator to make sure it recognizes it as a new value, a new memory address?
So the spread operator is going to be used for arrays or objects. If you're asking something like, if I had const x and set x, and I said initially it equals 4, and maybe I just print that out at the end, right? So let's just see that work. I'm just going to say put the x in there. So let's just see that first. I should have a 4 on the page. I do. So it sounds like what you're saying is, what if I had, you know, a button or something, or even I could put an onClick right on here. That's totally fine. And I said, when I click this, I want you to set X to the same thing, right? 4. Well, first, let's see if I set it to 5, that should update. Coming back here, it does now equal 5. But you're saying, what if I set it to 4? It already equals 4, right?
Well, yeah, I guess I think the other day when we were doing the assignment where I had to update the number of copies available, when I would set that use state value using the function, sometimes even though I was setting it to a different value, it wouldn't recognize there was a different value. So I figured like it was weird. I would set it to a new value, and then it wasn't until I clicked onto a different inventory item div that it would register. But I figured I couldn't figure it out. But maybe it had something to do with this, where it just wasn't recognizing it as a new value.
Yeah, I mean, that let's probably drop that for now, just because that might be a more complicated situation of the fact that if you're trying to make a copy, you want to make a copy of the whole thing you're working with. It might have been a situation where you had like your inventory and you were trying to make a copy of just one of the inventory items. And when your source of truth was really the whole inventory,
Yeah,
that might be too specific of a question.
that's all right.
No problem. I mean, but we can get to that perhaps after. Okay, any other questions about what we've seen with use state, or do we want to move on to use effect, for example? Okay, so we're going to move on to use effect now. And in order to do that, let me find a cat picture API because I know those exist. Cats as a service. So what's an example here? I have to sign up? No way, no way. This is a real API that exists. I'm getting a little confused. I know there's a cat, random free cat image.
Hey, Ben, I put it in the chat.
You put it in the chat. Okay, let me check. Well, I don't want to have to do something complex where I do like setup. Is this something I can just directly call? Great. So it looks like I want to do something like this. Is that right? And maybe I want to. So what are the options for searching for it? No, let's just say we're going to limit it to one. We're just going to get a random cat picture. Oh, this will get me a random image. Okay. So right, that's going to give me some random ID, some random URL. And then if we look at that, We'll see what it looks like. That is an image of a cat. It's very cute. So right, we're going to use this API, and that's just, by API just means we have a URL that's going to do something for us. Okay, so basically I want to associate each cat with an individual image. And honestly, if I were doing this myself, I would say, well, you know what, each cat itself, like this is where the use effect goes, because this is where we need the image. So I'm going to import use effect. Now let's use it. Inside of here, maybe I would say, okay, we're going to do use effect. And if you recall, use effect, we give it some value. The first value is going to be something we do. The second value is how often we do it. So by default, and most of the time, you're just going to say, do it exactly once the first time, and that's it. And what we're going to do is, oh, well, we actually need Axios. So let's stop this for a second. npm install -- save Axios. Great. Let me start that again. Okay. Close this for now. Okay, so what I want to do now is say, also import Axios. Axios.get, and then I'll pass it that URL. Save it. Oh, it doesn't seem to like that. Save it. And this is actually happening. If I come back here, I might say, okay, refresh. Well, I don't see anything. If I were to look in here, I might look in network and say, okay, we actually did do these two searches. Click on it. It did return something. I just don't see it on my page. So that's because coming back here, this is where I might want to add my .then. And my .then is going to take a single argument response. And let's just say I know this is going to work. So I'll console.log the response. And as I see over here, now I am printing it. And what I see is it has some stuff in here, and inside data, it actually has the thing I care about. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. It's really response.data that I care about. And what I'm going to do is say, it's more than that. It's response.data.url I care about. Well, I want to have this accessible outside of this use effect. So that's why I'm going to also use state. It's a pretty common pattern you'll see. And now what I'm doing is before I do the use effect, I'll say const cat image URL set cat image URL equal to use state, and it'll start out as like an empty string. And let's add that image. And it'll initially have a source equal to cat image URL. And because we're not setting it at all, what happens? Come back here, refresh. Okay, what happens? Well, I printed undefined twice. I wonder why.
You need to access something between data and URL. There was like a 0 in the last one that you
okay, yeah. So I'll take a look at that, but notice I'm not showing any image. So that's kind of good that I'm not yet showing an image, but I'm going to want it to fill in. So you're right. I need to first access, you can't control how the API works. So I'm going to get the thing at space 0 and then grab the URL as well. So I'm going to get the 0th thing, and then it has the URL. Let me just make sure by printing that out. Yes, it's showing it. So that's the point where I'm going to want to say set cat image URL to that. Okay. And this is all I should need now. Now that I'm doing set cat image URL, it started out as the empty string. Now it has a specific value. So cat image URL should update. So it should actually have a value there, and that image should show that image. Ooh, it's really big, and or the sizes change. What are the errors exactly? Why is it saying that? Refresh. I don't know what the errors are. Seems odd. Why is it not showing me the errors? Right? It's saying there's all these issues. Well, what are they? Indicate whether to send a cookie. Okay, I'm going to ignore that error. But yeah, I mean, this works right now. Like I have my cat cucumber, I have my cat danger. Let's just see if this works. If I were to say pancakes, right? I could stop printing that, but if I do add cat, oh, we actually have another cat here. So that's really nice that it works so seamlessly. Birthday boy, how about that? This one's funny. Okay. So I'm gonna come back here just because I don't like console.log and stuff I don't use or that I don't need to console log, I'll take that out. So this already works pretty nicely, and that's the main use of useEffect. We're saving some data and then we're using it. So this should be helpful for our final thing. But any questions on this, or should I go to that last thing before we finish, which is like using the router stuff, which is probably the most complicated part of the whole thing. Yeah, so let's do that. Remember, there's some setup with the router stuff. So first things first, you won't have to do this, but I do right now. I'm going to say npm install -- save react router DOM. So I actually get that thing. And the first thing I'm going to do is in source, I'm going to create a new file that I'm going to call router.jsx. And I'm going to import create browser router. And a lot of this has been done for you. And I'm going to say const router is equal to create browser router, which takes an array and takes something like this. And ultimately, I'm going to export it. And let's just set something up like what we're used to. So that classic pattern where I'm going to say like, okay, in the case of, how do I actually do this? Because app currently shows everything. So yeah, this requires a fair bit of refactoring, unfortunately. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import app. Maybe now I'm also going to create a new component that I am going to have to create, which I'll say like homepage.jsx. And I'll make another one that I will call, how about, you know, cat page.jsx, and they'll both use the cat card. So in terms of the homepage, I'll do it, you know, export default function homepage. It'll take something eventually. For now, it will return a blank div. And I'll make the same thing happen for the cat page. Just return a blank div. And I did all that just so that the router can import all of this. Import cat page. So not no. From / components / cat page. Okay, at least knows about that. Let's do the same thing for our home page. Okay. And like I said, most of this has been done for you, but I'm going to say like we have a path. That path is / it's associated with an element. That element is going to be app, actually. That's going to be our root. There's going to be children. It's another array. The first thing will be index true. And the element associated with that is going to be home page. And then secondly, we'll have another path here. Maybe this will be just /cat /name. How about that? I mean, I think we're just getting, we don't even have to because we're getting a random cat each time, but it would be nice to have the URL reflected at least. And the element will be the cat page. And I messed up over here. I want to actually do it like this. Okay, so yeah, this does require the most refactoring. I go to app now, and I say, maybe I do have all my cats here. I have these functions, right? I say cats over here, but really this belongs on the home page. Let's say we look through all of our cats, including the button to add it. It's really everything here belongs to my home page. Let me take care of that. My home page looks like this. Okay, now it looks like this. Is it okay with that? I think it's going to be okay with that. And obviously my homepage relies on some things. It relies on cats. What else does it rely on? Anything else? Nope, that's it. Nope, it requires input value. And input value is actually unique to this one. So maybe we just move that one down there. Only the homepage needs to know about the input value. And when I do this, it's going to also need to know about the use state. So that's why this part is annoying, because it requires a fair amount of refactoring. Okay, so this works, but it still needs the cats. How is it going to get the cats? That's where this outlet thing comes into play. So that's where I'm going to say, like, import outlet from React Router DOM. And while we print cats here, I guess we always print cats. That's like our nav bar. We're going to have this outlet. It's going to have this thing on it called context. Realize I'm just running through this now. This is a little much. We're going to pass it the cats this way. Maybe we also pass it set cats because I think it needs that. So it needs to get both of these, and it's going to get it over here in, at least in home page. Don't need that anymore. In home page, it's going to get it by importing use outlet context. And we use that like this. We say const, use outlet context. So we grab it. And what is it? It's equal. And we'll grab those two things. We put on it cats and set cats. Now this will work because our router shows app, which also shows homepage when we're on slash. Homepage is going to replace outlet, but it's going to grab the cats and the set cats. And like this, it's going to be able to access the cats and the set cats. So now it has everything it needs, I believe, because we do use set cats there. Okay, and we have all of that. The final thing we haven't done is we have to go to main.jsx, because currently we're saying app is our root. Reality, I want to say import router, okay, from /router. Also import router provider. Yep. And what this actually is router provider. It takes this thing called router. I'll give the value router. I think I've done everything I need to make at least the home page work. Let's see. Let's refresh. Oh, I think I stopped running it, so I have to do that. I can share this code with everybody. Oops. That's what I meant to do. Okay, coming back here, refresh. Not quite. It says cat card is undefined. Why is that? If I look in my home page, right, because this was requiring it. So now this is where we need to import it. It's cat card it wanted, right? Okay, now, yes, now it works. Here are my cats on my home page. Hello, it's another cat. Okay, now what we want to do in the next 5 minutes, I suppose. Am I going too fast? Let me read the chat. You all are talking about kombucha. But I'll share this code so this will be useful. What I want to do is I want to make it when I click on one of these, I navigate to that cat page. Coming back here, I'll say, okay, how does this work? If I were to click, how do I do that? Well, I'll do that in the individual cat card, maybe. Actually, I don't think I do want to do that because I want to just show the cat card for an individual cat card. So maybe I'll wrap this in like a div. And this div will have the onClick. And what will it do? It'll have to navigate to a specific page. So that requires another thing from React Router DOM, which is use navigate do another thing over here. Const navigate equals use navigate. And now I'll say when I click, where do I go? I'm going to navigate somewhere. Where do I navigate? And I'm realizing this could actually just be a link tag. You don't have to do it this way because it's on click. But I might as well. So I already have this part. I'm navigating. What am I navigating to? I'm going to navigate to whatever I said in router. So I should have something called /cat and then the cat's name. Let's try that. /cat and then what is the name of my cat? Well, I have the cat name right here. So let's do that. And this will at least navigate to me to the page when I click it. Although cat page, I believe, is pretty much empty at this point. So I'll just write a cat for now. So let me refresh. Each thing needs a key, right? So coming back here, because of how I changed things, the key doesn't want to go here anymore. It wants to go here. That's the only change I need to make there. Coming back here, refresh. Okay, that happened quickly, so let's see that again. I have my cats, including Danger, who's gigantic. Type whatever I want. I create a new cat. This one's small. Let's say I click this one, or let's click Danger. I click Danger. Okay, the URL did update, but this is all my page shows right now. So the first thing I might want to do is actually grab that that cat. Katie, I see what you're saying about the outlets thing. So that is worth discussing. So right, here's the thing about outlet. If I go to main, I'll see that my new source of truth is this thing router provider, and then I pass it the router. What that means is once I set it up, it's router I want to look at that's going to tell me all the info. So what this is saying is on/show app. And because I set it this way, I'm saying on/show app, on/anything else also show app, as long as it matches with one of these children. So on/ followed by exactly / I'm still going to show app. On / followed by cat name, I actually just want to do that. I'm still going to show just app. So what are these elements? Well, I'm always showing app. When I go to / anything, I'm always showing app, assuming it matches something. When I go to app, what I see here is, okay, I always show cats. Maybe I call this, my cat page. I always show this. But then there's also this thing called outlet. And outlet is going to get replaced with one of those two things. So let me just only look at router right now. Outlet is going to get replaced with either homepage or cat page, depending on which one of these either index or path match. So when we're on / nothing else, we show app, and outlet gets replaced with homepage. When we're on / cat / parameter name, that could be anything, we'll still just show app, but outlet will get replaced with cat page. So that's what's going on with the outlet thing. Then from there, the question is, well, how do I pass data from the level of app to whatever is at outlet? As it turns out, props won't work. Instead, this is our solution. We can pass data like this, where this is just an object. I'm giving it with these values cats and set cats. And that value is being passed to a prop called context. And the reason why we do it that way is because now I can go into homepage. Homepage can use this built-in React Router DOM hook called use outlet context, and it is allowed to grab that data now. I mean, you're joking, Roger, but it is a fair amount of magic, and that's what can be confusing. That it's hard to follow because it's been done for us, and as you know, there's some like famous quote that goes along the lines of like, magic is just sufficiently advanced technology you don't understand. And that's true. I mean, you could see it right here. Like, I mean, the whole computer is a bit of magic because I don't understand it deeply, deeply, deeply. But anytime I'm using a library I understand, it doesn't feel like magic. The minute you're using a library you don't understand, if it works for you, but you don't quite understand it, that's magic. That's magic because you don't know the means. Science is magic too. It's just you don't know the means. Yes, outlet is basically a middleman. Outlet is there to interface with the router and just get replaced with whatever the appropriate child is, which is matched up with a given path. So this now works, and we're able to go to cat like this. I see we're over time. That's okay, for me at least. And what we have here in the router tells us, okay, when we go there, we look at cat page. We have this parameter name. We know it's a parameter because of this. If we didn't have that, we'd be looking for exactly /cat/name, but this means /cat/anything. So I'm going to go to my cat page, and there's something I want to import from here now. I want to say import use params. So that's going to allow me to grab that parameter, and I can do that like this. I grab it, and then because it might have multiple things on it, they give it to me like an object, and I call that name, right? So I have my name. And now what I want to do, because just like the homepage used it, I could say import cat card, and you'll do something similar for your Pokey stuff where you might have a Pokey card and multiple pages can reference it. So here I might now want to say, okay, for each one of these things, return a cat card. Maybe I'll wrap it in something like this to begin with. So for each one of these things, I want to have a cat card. And if I recall, a cat card is going to be expecting a prop, right? That prop is going to have a name on it, and it's going to use that name. So I'm going to have to actually pass it that name. So I'll say name is equal to name. So I'm able to get that name all the way down there. Save this. Okay, how does this work now? Well, I start with my cat page. It has, oops, I'm already on there. I start with my cat page. It has everything, including that search. Might make more sense to have that one at the top. I click on one cat. Now it's showing the URL updated, just that cat cucumber. It doesn't have the input. The final thing I might want to do is link back to home. So if I wanted to make this a really great app, finally, I might say, well, you know what? This input and button, it doesn't belong down here. Just to see it, let's add it to the top like that. And then now that I've done that, I might say, once I'm on this page, I might even say, okay, this is actually, home page, whereas this is actually, let's say, which one? It's going to be called individual cat page. And then I also kind of want to have a back button here. So I'm going to have a button maybe, and I'll say, go back home. So let's see that. I have this go back home button, but if I click it, it does nothing. And I could use, use navigate to make me go home. But I could also just use this built-in React Router DOM thing called link. And link is going to allow us to create links, but I'm pretty sure I can wrap anything in that link, including a button. So if I do link like this, and I put that button inside, like I don't even know if this will work, but that's part of programming. Okay. And I'm going to say to, and where does it go? It's going to go back home. See if that works. Okay, I'll refresh. So this page still works. That cat is gigantic. And let's see if I click this button. Oh, it is a real link, and that works. I click this. So now I've got kind of like a working website. Pretty cool. Oh my God, that is one beautiful cat. Okay, so that is everything. I appreciate that y'all appreciate the review. Roger, that's probably a good idea. I probably should just do something on Udemy. I wonder if that conflicts with my job contract, but great idea. I wonder if people really make money on Udemy, but something to think about. And Roger is here for Cypress. So how about the review is over now, unless you're having specific issues with Cypress. I will put this on YouTube. And you know what? I'll keep recording because some people might need the Cypress stuff as well. But this review is officially over. Now we are shifting to talking about Cypress, helping people with their Cypress issues if they have them. So that's what we're doing. Let's get her done. Who
Hey Ben,
remembers that?
before you switch, can I ask a quick question relative to the code we were just doing?
Yes.
So this is just basically the way that the API is set up where it's getting a random image every time. That's why it's regenerating when you go to the page of the specific thing. But if you use it like the Pokey API where it's got a consistent image every time, that wouldn't matter. This is just happening because it's a random image generator. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. And
Okay.
there's kind of two ways we could have dealt with that. Like one of them is every time we got the image, we could have saved it to this cat list object. The other way, which actually is the more common way, is that, you know, this might get all the images and then it could, of course, pass them down to the individual cat card. But actually, let's say someone, you know, uses your site a lot and they just go directly to cat/hello. Can't that be the name of my cat? Why doesn't that work? I'm gonna click cucumber. I don't know what I did wrong there. Really, if I just give it doesn't work? No, it does work. Okay. So really what's more common is that if you have a page that shows an individual thing, that page makes the request. And that way you kind of have it split up where it's like this main page probably makes a request that gets 30 of these, and then it fills them all in. But the idea is it only gets like the basic data. So just like if you go to Netflix, right? Netflix is going to show all these movies. So it got them up front. It got maybe their name and their image, and that's it. And then if you click one of them, Netflix actually makes another request. And that request is to say, I know the individual ID of the thing I'm talking about now, get all the data for it. And in addition, if someone goes directly to that page now, they don't have to do the intermediate stuff. They don't have to grab everything from some first page.
All right, that makes sense. Thanks, Ben.
Cool. Yeah, so we're going to continue recording this, but I'm assuming everyone who stayed around, or some of you at least, have some issues with WSL. And I would say I'm going to stop sharing because I'm not on WSL. Can you share some of your, does one of you want to share your screen and we can talk about it?
Me, because I gotta go pretty soon. Do you
Yeah,
mind if
that's cool.
Cypress?
Yep, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, give me a second.
And of course, a hearty welcome to the child holding the vacuum. I think it's a vacuum.
Yeah, it's a vacuum. He really likes our vacuum that we used to clean, so we had to get him his own vacuum, like a
That's
vacuum.
hysterical. Is it a working vacuum or a toy vacuum?
It's a toy vacuum, but this is the stuff that my kid loves, so that's what I got.
I get it, you know. It's a
But
power tool.
yeah, so I believe someone else had the same issue I had. I believe it was Suhail. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
Where it tells me that Cypress failed to start.
Yeah, so let's look at that. It's saying it's missing this thing libnss3. So the first thing I'll do is click that link, required dependencies. We'll just try to remember the name of that thing we're looking for. Lib is something, because it could be that's a common case. So it looks like that is a pretty common case. And so because one is on Ubuntu, which it's going to be the same if you're on WSL, that counts as Ubuntu. I apologize that I didn't see this myself, but I wasn't able to run it on this first. You're going to want to copy paste that code. Chances are you're also going to want a sudo in front of that, but try it first without sudo. Let's see what happens. But very often downloading stuff will not work unless you sudo. So that's a whole bunch of things at once. Yeah, when you get that error, it's saying you got to be root. So that means just add sudo to the front of it. Super user do. Now tell us your password out loud. No, you don't have to. Better know your own password. Okay, so this is probably going to take a minute. Just keep clicking yes. I think enter will be, you know, if the Y is capital, that means default is yes. So you can just keep hitting enter. So right, this might take a minute because it looks like there was a bunch of dependencies it could theoretically rely on. Okay, cool. Now, I would say to be safe, actually, no, let's just try it. Try running sciopen again. But there's a good chance that it might not work. And if it doesn't work, then what you would want to do is just restart your terminal. So it's saying it's your first time. It thinks it's your first time. So give it a second. It's probably downloading stuff. Okay. Fail to connect to the bus. I don't know what that means. But yeah, so let's try this. Let's close your Visual Studio Code or your terminal, whatever you want. Close it and reopen it. The simplest way would be to go to that terminal part and like trash it. There should be a trash can somewhere. There we go. Yeah. Dev probably isn't running, but even if it is, Cypress should run first. Yeah, it is running. Okay. But Cypress should run regardless. It shouldn't fail. And then it should tell you, hey, you don't have your server running as well if it's not running. But that's a warning as opposed to like a true error. So yeah, run sciopen now. Try that. That seems pretty good to me. I'm so happy that that seemingly did it in terms of, okay, so continue. That should only show that one time. Click end to end, it's already configured. Start. Ooh, do you not have Chrome on your computer? I think this will work too, but I would just download Chrome to be careful. Do you not have Chrome?
I do have Chrome, but I don't think it's like
It's like not hooked up. Yeah, I could see that. It's not hooked up to WSL. I could definitely see that.
Yeah,
WSL is giving us more trouble than I like. I feel like maybe next time we should just figure out how everyone can do things in Windows. So can you click that focus button? Because it could be it's already running somewhere. You just need to find it now. Is that it? Yeah, so it looks like that is it. So try running 0. Let's just see if it works. So yeah, hopefully Electron works fine for people. Okay, so at least this is passing. My hope is that Electron's going to work just as well as Chrome. Electron is basically an app running natively on your Windows or Linux or Mac computer, and it really just internally is a browser window. But that's good that this is working. If anyone else was watching along, I hope this was your problem. But if not, I think we're good to try the next problem. Hope this helped.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your
problem.
time, Benjamin. Thanks for the review also.
Yeah, no problem.
You have a good weekend.
You too.
I can go next, but I have plenty of time, so if someone's got to leave, I can certainly wait.
Okay. Y'all heard Suhail. He's got plenty of time. He's going to be here till 9 p.m.
Yeah, I have an issue running it with Chrome. I'm on a Mac.
Okay, so can we see?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm running dev here. And if I go it's pretty much it'll open it, but nothing happens. It's just blank. And then my
Weird.
terminal is just like attempting
Yeah.
over and over, and then nothing happens.
Jonathan is saying you have to update Chrome. So can we try that? Can we try killing this right now? Like in the Cypress Open, we kill it. Now go to Jonathan, are you saying you have to update Chrome or you have to update Cypress?
Update Cypress. I saw it on the top right. It said to update it.
I did update Cypress, and then because at first I didn't update it and it brought me to that like page that Jesse had.
Yeah.
I think I might have clicked like run whatever it says, like run something, and it started running. Hold on, let me see.
Okay, let's try doing it one more time and let's see if it prints any useful stuff there. So click that. Let's try that again. Because we could try just updating Chrome. Maybe that's a thing. Like,
because it's saying like I clicked something before I updated it, and then it popped up. It's like Chrome is being controlled by an automated test software.
Yeah, well, we would expect that. We would expect that right here. But yeah, let's close this right now. Dave, if you're on WSL, the issue was WSL should be telling you, like you're missing some dependencies. You click on that link, it's going to give you a bunch of things it wants you to download with app-get. You might have to add a sudo in front. Once you do that, it should work. So try that. Yeah, let's click that upgrade. It's going to want you to, so copy that and put that in, right.
Kill this then.
Kill this.
Okay, just try to.
Okay. So try it again now. I'm surprised. I wouldn't expect, yeah. Yep, that's it, Suhail. Oh, yeah, no, Suhail's telling Dave. Okay, we're still having an issue. Let's try closing this. And just, can you open a regular Chrome thing?
Yeah.
Can you, like, if you look all the way to the right where you got those 3 circles, like, is there an option to like update Chrome? So
Settings maybe.
yeah, let's try it. I'm sure in settings there's something to say like force an update. Maybe not, who knows? But either way, I mean, so yeah, let's try that first, just because if you could use Chrome, that's probably ideal. There's got to be maybe click where it says I want to update Chrome. Okay, we want to go to about Chrome. Let's try that. Or
Where-
maybe actually keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. Scroll up a little. It looks like it says it's not like it would have shown you. Scroll up a little. So okay, maybe it is up to date. I guess you could try that and then click about Chrome. Let's try that. There should be an about Chrome somewhere. I don't see it either. Help. Who's doing that? Who's the mystery man with his drawings?
Okay.
Looks
Chrome-
like it is up to date. So you know what we're actually going to try? Let's close Chrome, or you can leave Chrome open, but let's run Cypress again. Just try Electron.
Oh, so Electron did work for me, but I'm just worried that I messed something up with Chrome because I was like clicking some weird buttons before.
Yeah.
I don't know if like, is there a way to like get rid of Cypress and re-download it with like the
Sure.
original?
Yeah. We could try that. X this out. Exit this. So you see where you have that node modules folder? You should have a node modules folder. Yeah. Delete all of node modules. Just actively delete it. Now, if you do npm install, it's going to re-download everything. It doesn't know about Cypress anymore, as far as I know. Now try running that Cypress open. Seems to have an issue. So there's some issue happening where, I don't know, there's some, like, this is the kind of thing where, like, let's say you were working at a company, you were setting this up, you might run into an error like this. You have no idea why, but you run into this error. Now you just start frantically Googling because there's no way to know, right? I would say if it works just as well, let's just do things in Electron. And like all of these things, I'll reiterate it because it's important to know, I will grade stuff manually if I have to. Not a big deal to grade things manually. You know, the whole point of the auto grader is that ideally I don't have to grade things manually. But if I have to grade things manually, no big deal. So 0 should pass. None of the others will pass. Honestly, on my end, I'm going to quickly check that if I do it, I just want to see that if I go to the solution for this assessment, I just want to make sure that Electron passes all of my tests on my end. So I'm going to try Electron. And let me run each of these. Let me try that again. Why did that fail? Why is that failing? Did I change it? Is it no longer? Oh, because I changed it as an example. Okay, let me just try the others. Okay, they're all passing so far. Some of these take a little while. But yeah, I can show you at my end. I can actually share my screen if people would like to see that. So all these have passed so far. This is an electron. So this failed, but for a stupid reason, because I was actually showing the issue. So I could actually fix these. So my first one fails because it's looking for Poedex, but it actually needs Pokédex. So let me fix my version. Hopefully I won't show you the solution in the process. But you know, that's why you stuck around, right? So what was that again? I think it's app, where I want to make sure it says Poedex. So it's the nav bar. Don't look at this. Don't look at any of this. No, it is Pokédex. Why is that not I'm a little confused. Oh, it's because it's my solutions that this one I made it say look for Poedex. It should be looking for Pokédex. And then let's just make sure these all pass. I'll move this over one. Okay, does test 0 pass? Yeah, it does. Does test 1 pass? Yeah, it does. Let's actually see what they're called. Navbar structure, navbar link functionality, homepage structure, homepage links functionality, Pokemon page structure, Pokemon card background color, team page structure, can catch Pokemon. So this is now upset because it says, I expected the button to have the text released, but the text was release. So I believe the issue is not on my test. That was test number 8. I mean, I don't want anyone to be changing the test unless they really have to. So really the issue is on my end. I want to make sure my thing says release. So I would go into my thing and say, okay, it's on the individual Pokemon card. And I don't want you to see this, but that says catch. That says, it does say release. What's the issue? Oh, I want it to say release. Okay. Okay, close that right quick. Run this again. Okay, this passes now, seemingly, because it has the word released on there. I don't even see that part anymore. There it is. Can't catch dupes. Oh man, wait. It looks like I might have a small bug in my test where it looks like in one place I expect it to be released, and in the other place I expect it to be release. It's good that we caught that. I will mention that. In fact, actually, looks like release is the standard that we wanted to start with. So I'll just make sure that that second one is looking for something release. This now works.
Since this is out already and people have pulled it, we'll have to go in there and change that, right?
Yeah, I'll just mention that to people. Yeah.
Okay.
I love this test. This would take a lot of time otherwise. Oh yeah, it happened really quickly, but ultimately we were checking. We could add 6, we couldn't add any more, and then we had a whole team. Wait, is that the one I just did? I think so. No, this is its own thing. Let's just make sure. I find this very cool. Dope.
All right, I have just one more question.
Yes.
When you're on the Electron page and then you click start E to E testing in Electron, and then how do you run the test? How is that?
You want to share your screen?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. I just want to make sure I do mention to everyone though about this Give me a second. Pokemon card. What was it originally? I originally wrote release, and test 8 originally was looking for release, right?
Was it 7 or 8?
Give me a second. It was 9 that's looking for released, and I want to update that to release. So I'm just gonna write something quickly for everyone where I say test 9. Let me do that. So just give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Actually, no, I can do this after. Just give me, I'm just gonna make the image and I'll share it after. Let me do this. I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right? No, I'm not.
No, I think I am.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yes.
I've got my 2 terminals down here. I've got one with my npm run dev, and then I did that fix you guys gave me, and I did that npm run sci open. And then it gave me some of this stuff down here, and some get stuff. And now I'm here on this Electron. So now how do I run the test? Do I just click on them and then that's it?
Just give me 1 second. Sure, just trying to get my screens right. Just have to press done. Okay. Yeah, so click on the 0. Click on 0 example test. Once you click on 1, it's going to give you this view. So that passed. Now look all the way on. I think if you make your screen bigger, it might work also. No. So all the way on the left, you see there's a bunch of buttons.
Yes.
So hover over specs. Yeah, specs is the one you want. Click specs. Okay, that just brings you back. My fear, actually, you see where it says version 12.17.1 upgrade? I would click that because I don't know how, but people seem to have gotten, it looks like it updated since I created this. So click that, click update 12.17.3, copy that, and paste that in your thing. And I think the test will pass regardless. But the idea is if you first have to end because it's still, you have to like Command C. Yeah. So now do that. Yeah. And Jonathan, this is like the annoying thing about anything with technology. Updates happen all the time. And so things can break if you rely on them.
So it seems to be hanging.
It'll happen. Just give it a second.
Okay.
I think at least. Yeah, Jonathan, maybe that is a little wild, but the crazy thing is that every time we do install fest, something's changed. And it's like every single time we have to redo install fest. Okay, so now let's try running sci again, assuming it's not open in one of those other ones.
What's that?
Run sci again, so the npm run sci open, great. See, now it's saying like, oh, this is your first time using 12.17.3.
Oh,
okay,
and then
now
it up, and then you just go to
now
here.
Click that. Click Electron. That works well enough.
Yeah, I do.
Now click the first one. Now it seemingly has that thing on the side. No, it doesn't. What's up? Why does your thing not show it? Oh, you see next to the green button. So you see the green button, and then right next to it says specs.
Yeah.
Is that a button? That thing that says like the
no
right next to the word specs? No, that isn't. Okay.
Interact with
what is there any way to drag this part out? Like go to the end of the dark gray part and try and drag it. I mean, this works too, but like click on that first one or 0th one, click on any of them. So you see where the dark gray part ends on the right? If you hover where the dark gray part, yeah, there, Jonathan, yes, thank you. Oh no, you can't drag it. I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that for you and not for me. I don't know. Click view maybe? What if you click view? Or that's just part of the browser part of it? I'm saying like those top bunch, like there's that word view, but that's probably just for the browser. Actual size, let's try actual size. Does that do it? Now you lost the actual thing. Oh, X this out. We don't want to pop it out. See where it
Yeah,
says view?
it's just the browser here.
But let's go to the view for this one. What if you do actual size?
I can't.
You can't
Can't.
even. Okay.
I
I
can't.
can't even. I have no idea, but I guess this isn't the end of the world. Like if you go back or if you click that
Is it
specs
just
thing.
frozen?
Well, this test didn't pass because it's not set up to pass initially. Oh, it's not working for you if you click specs? No, it
Okay.
is. Okay.
It's getting a little bit better.
Yeah,
Sure.
and then the other thing is that every time you push, this is going to be an action on GitHub. So at the very least, GitHub is going to do the right thing. Because that's like a controlled environment. That's just going to do it not visually, but just print it out. But still, it's nice to be able to see it.
Awesome.
It's now giving you issues on this one.
Oh, no, I think I just gotta close it and restart it, I'm sure.
Well, you see there's that refresh where it says like check X refresh. No, seemingly. Well, I mean, hopefully this works for people. If it doesn't work for everyone, we'll learn something.
Hey, I mean, I think it's gonna be good. I just gotta restart it. So thank you
Okay.
for all your help.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. That's why I'm here. All right. Anybody else? Suhail, everyone who has all the time in the world. You shouldn't tell people that.
Have a good weekend, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah, mine is weird, Ben.
All right, let's see it. Whoever's sharing the screen, stop sharing before we make you stop sharing. Okay. Okay, so what is yours saying? It's saying something no one else is saying. Are you on True Linux or you're on? No, I see you're on Windows. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, so did you install those dependencies it asked for or no?
I did, but I feel like this is the source of the problem. So I unfortunately consulted ChatGPT when the error first came up, which was very similar to what everyone else had. It was like missing a certain dependency, and it was
Yeah.
it listed that dependency. And I ran this right here, sudo apt purge dbus, and then it
I have
had me
no idea what that is.
reinstall it.
Yeah.
And then I think what happened was when I tried to reinstall, it didn't actually do it. And now I'm kind of in a hole.
Okay, what I'll say is let's close all of VS Code. So we got rid of all of those things. Yeah. Close it, reopen it. Okay, now once this loads, we're going to want to go to the folders and delete node modules. Delete the whole folder node modules. Bye-bye node modules. That can sometimes help. Now, even though your issue has to do with apt-get, so probably not, but now open the terminal window and first do npm install. Okay, we did npm install. Now let's try query string API is considered legacy. Okay, thank you. Let's try npm run sciopen. Don't worry about the fact that your server is not running. Let's just see. Thinks it's the first time. Okay, so now what happens if we try and download those dependencies? Like, let's click on that link for the dependencies. So grab that first one, and you're probably gonna have to do sudo in front of it. Okay, now trash this and start it over. Trash this terminal window. Start it again. You don't have to npm install again, but
okay.
doesn't hurt. npm run sciopen. So I just don't know what this means. Like it's referencing C code, I think. Too short EDID. I just don't know what this means. Which is not great. So whatever ChatGPT told you to do might have gotten you in a pickle. Can we see what ChatGPT told you to do? Maybe there's a way to reverse it if we know what it told you to do. Okay.
Actually, no, it did just crash, so I had to relaunch it, so that's gone. But after asking,
Oh,
hey,
try that part. npm site, was it that? npm Cypress cache clear? Try running it again. I mean, this is how debugging works. Just try running it again. Okay, I think it wants you to do npm install again. So npm-i, right?
I'm sorry, Ben. It was
Yeah, no, that works. npm install works. npm-i is the same as npm install.
Okay.
Let's try running it again. What? Let's delete node modules and do that again. And in fact, before we do anything, can we go into Cypress? Can we go into package.json? So it's going to tell you to do this eventually anyways, where it says Cypress, you see it says 4.2.0. Oh, 4.2. Can we change that to 4.12.3?
Is that line 22, Ben?
Yes, 4.12.3. I think that's what we want.
12.3.
I think that's the up-to-date one. So now let's run this again. npm install, sorry, npm install.
Okay, gotcha. Install. Oh.
No matching version. Maybe I was wrong about that. Ugh. Okay, let's just go back to the version it was. Just commands
could
on
I,
that.
by chance, update to the 4.12.3? I think there was.
Well, I don't know which one. Let's just go back to what it was because.
Okay, gotcha. I think it was 4. I'll just Control Z it.
Yeah, we had it at like 4.2.0. Okay, let's try this again. npm
They
install.
should save that.
So if we really wanted, we could dig into node modules and find out which version it's using, but the issue it's having is deeper than its version number. It's its compatibility with Linux.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that purge command, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Purge dbus.
Well, that's how you learn. That's how you learn to not. And sometimes you have to anyways, just do some crazy command. Katie, I don't like hearing that, but I guess we'll see. Also, I'm gonna have to get off the computer eventually for real because I'm staying with my parents. And as you all know, when it gets dark out, the Sabbath starts. So we take the Sabbath very seriously in the
Gotcha.
home.
Oh, it just
If one of you wants to jump in a room with Francisco, feel free. I don't know if Francisco's up for it or volunteering. I don't think he has to, but.
yeah, sure. It's just taking forever to load.
Yeah. You can always Control C and try again, but chances are it's just taking time.
Gotcha.
And I apologize for the fact that some people are having issues, but the good thing to note is that it will still work when you push to GitHub. It's going to give you less insight.
Gotcha. So I would just have to push multiple times and use the tester, the grader there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, actually, this one.
Yeah, it finished. Okay, let's try it again. Let's try run Cypress. Let's hope. Verifying it can run. Nope, I didn't think so. Okay, so at this point, we just have to Google, like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
Google
I wonder, the next thing I think of is like a nuclear approach. It's basically find out where apt-get install stuff, wipe it out, start over. But then you're not gonna have node, you're not gonna have anything.
Yeah.
What was the thing you ran? You ran like apt-get purge or something?
It was, let's see here. It was sudo apt purge dbus.
Can we just Google that, what sudo apt purge dbus is?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Katie, even if you can't get Cypress to work locally, which, is not ideal, if you push to GitHub and you click on that actions thing and you click on auto grader, it's going to run it for you. And honestly, even those can be run locally. So I can show you how to do that. I'll show Suhail how to do that in a second. Let's actually do, yeah, no, but it's going to need Cypress anyways, but I wonder, maybe that would work. Can we go back to let's go to your Visual Studio Code. Let's see if something else works.
Mhm.
So go to package.json, right? You're already in there. So
Package.json.
you see I wrote, yeah, no, you're already in there, package.json. You see there's another thing called scyrun.
Scyrun. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's how the, what's it called actually works. That's how the auto grader works to just print something. So actually, let's just try typing in your console. Just write npx cypress run. Oh, it's probably gonna, yeah, let's see actually. Let's just see. Cypress is spelled incorrectly, so you have to fix that. Let's try that. Yeah, we're probably gonna run into the same issue. So, right, it's not gonna work. Can we at least try this? You've already made some basic changes. Let's add those changes and push to GitHub. Let's just ensure that works. Just so you know, your commit can be anything, but you can put spaces in between the quotes in a commit.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what the quotes are for. If you don't include the quotes, you can't, of course, but. Okay, now let's go there. Let's click that link to go back to your GitHub. That one, yeah. Okay, now you see where it says actions, click that. Now click that commit. Now click auto grading. Now we can watch it. As you see, like it's gonna start printing stuff out where it takes a second. We're building these dependencies and running build. So now Cypress is running. Because this isn't on your computer, it works. So this should work the same regardless of who pushes, because it's not happening on anyone's specific computer. So now that's running the server. That's not good. That's not good. I'm really annoyed that things seemingly. Can we find out what the current version of Cypress is? I mean, either way, I don't think that is a little unfortunate that yeah, you did something intense. Should have been careful.
They didn't warn me.
Oh, maybe that's all we need to get that package back. Can we now do sudo apt install dbus? Let's try that. Hopefully that'll be enough. As in, if the issue in part was that you got rid of this thing dbus,
Just doesn't want to reinstall it, or
no, it did it. It did it. Oh no, it didn't. So wait, then what did purge mean?
purge, but to remove it.
But I'm
I
saying,
guess...
is there a sudo apt remove? Like, let's try that maybe. Can we? Well, no, don't mess with ChatGPT right now. Like, let's
Okay.
go to let's just type
Mhm.
sudo space apt space. What if you start just clicking after app, just click tab. Space and then tab. Right. Okay. Here's what it has: auto clean, auto purge, auto remove. So there is something called remove. Let's try remove followed by dbus.
Remove. It's probably right in front of me. I just can't see it.
No, it's right there.
Dbus.
Dbus. Let's try it. Enter. Yes.
Yes.
We're getting rid of this
Enter.
thing. Okay. Now it doesn't know about dbus. Let's try this again now. Let's do sudo apt install dbus. Okay. Now we're getting the brand new version of dbus.
All because I wanted to just copy and paste that command.
Yeah, well, everyone does it. I mean, I had a nightmare situation once in my life with copy pasting Git commands, and it taught me something. It taught me a very valuable lesson, which is like, okay, being frustrated with a line of code is annoying. Having 8 people on your team furious at you because you might have wiped out a year of work, much worse. So
Hopefully
better to
that
not be productive than to have everyone
Yeah.
be like, did you just destroy a year of progress? It was like 2 months of
Oh my
progress, but
goodness.
still, I know it was terrible. But people make those mistakes. Okay, let's try this now. npm run sci open. Okay, what if we tried? Now it's actually giving us a good error. It doesn't have a certain library. So let's
Awesome.
try that. If you can go all the way back, let's just try installing all that stuff again that it asks you to install.
Mhm.
So if you just keep clicking up, you have it somewhere. And or you can go copy paste it again. You seem to be a fan of that reverse thing, so we can try that. Like it started
Gotcha.
with sudo. Yeah, that's what we want.
Mhm.
And is that on the list of things? We were looking for libgtk. Yeah, it looks like that's on the list. libgtk-3. Okay, we're good. We're good. Let's keep doing it.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. Okay, try it again. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Ugh! Back to this. I mean, this is why people hate C, because it's saying like you don't know it's at that memory address. This is a frustrating error that you're not going to be able to solve. Most people aren't going to be able to solve it. Oh yeah, I guess the next thing I wanted to say is what is the current version of Cypress? I'll find that out.
Mhm.
Cypress current version 12.17.3 is the latest version, which was released 3 days ago. So let's go back into our package.json where it says Cypress 12.17.3. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, 12.17.3. Okay, now you could try running it again. It's probably not going to run on your computer, but the fact that, yeah, you do want to do that. Yeah, it's probably not going to work on your computer still, but now at least it should work in the GitHub version, I would hope, because it's referencing the latest version.
Gotcha.
And if you're in a real pickle, I mean, it sucks, but I can just, you'll do your best to pass those tests manually, and then I'll grade it manually.
Well, thank you, Ben. I don't mean to keep you too late. I know you have it's getting pretty
Yeah.
pretty close, but
A second.
come on. Okay. Try to open it. If it doesn't open, I'll just go straight to GitHub. Oh, no, that's something crazy.
Okay, where were we? Yeah, what's going on? Oh yeah, so right, try again, pushing, right.
Yeah, it didn't work with the on the local, but hopefully this
Yeah, and is there anyone else still in this room that needs help that is not needing this exact help? Because it might be reasonable to jump. Okay, Katie, that's good. I mean, it's not the best solution in the world, but still it's good. And then the other good news, Katie, actually, no, never mind. If you're having, I want to see your issue because it could be, the thing is like what it's doing on GitHub is it's just running it not visually. That version might work better for people. Because if you don't have this specific issue, which Suhail might uniquely have because he tried some solution that might have made things worse. Not to rub it in, Suhail. But if that's the case, then maybe we are going to want to.
Well, I really hope 0 passes, but
We're getting there. I mean, this looks good to me. We'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. I think we got this far last time. We're actually hosting it. Here we go. I mean, we're running the test. There we go. You passed the first test. It's only worth 0 points, but you passed that
I'm
first
good with
test.
0. Awesome.
Yeah. So now this is essentially what you want. This is what Katie has access to. You're failing these tests. It might tell you some info about your failing. You're just not able to get the full power of that visual thing. But I mean, it even has screenshots, although I think I turned off the saving of the screenshots. Yeah, I mean, it's giving you decent errors, decent output. So yeah, you have that at least.
Oh, I'll have to work with what I've got, but thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So Katie, do you want to share your thing? I think you're the last person, right? If anyone else is around, say something if you need help. I really probably got to jump at 6, but
I'm
still.
also getting an error.
What is your error? Whoever shares their screen first. Dakota, Katie, let's see.
Nah, Katie, you can go ahead.
Okay.
All right. What a gentleman.
All right. Can you see my screen?
I can, yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is from the top. I did the npm install and it immediately got angry.
Oh, it immediately got angry. Honestly, that might be a better issue. Have you been able to npm install since then?
No, it keeps doing this. And then me and Rob tried some things, like we just tried to like sudo npm run sciopen. It didn't like that. It just kind of like kept running for like 5 minutes and didn't do anything. So I killed it.
Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Let's just
Okay.
scroll all the way down on this terminal. Don't need to know all the details. So if you do npm installs, it's still not working? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Delete node modules. Outright delete node modules.
Oh gosh, okay.
That's not such a big thing. Just go to the folder, delete node modules, because sometimes things get messed up. And the problem is that node modules is like, I already have that file. And it's like, but you don't have a good version of it. So it's super common, like just like turn it on and turn it off. The number one JavaScript debug tip is delete node modules, reinstall node modules. So now that there is no node modules, let's try npm install. Also, crossing your fingers has a known effect on technology outcomes, so it's important.
Oh yeah, crossing my fingers.
Yeah. Don't uncross them early. The gods of technology understand that you can be, not truly venerating.
I'm gonna cross my arms, my toes, my
There we
legs.
go. See, now we can. Yeah. Okay, so now it worked. Now let's try npm run sciopen. Maybe you have this other error, but we'll see. Yep.
Pretty please.
So we're probably gonna get that thing where it says like doing it for the first time.
Ooh.
Maybe not. I mean, this is a great progress already.
Oh,
So
this is
let's
the first time I've gotten this. Awesome.
Nice, nice. All right, let's click end-to-end testing. just to see it. Click that. It's now gonna say like, hey, you're not actually running it. So in another terminal, do npm run dev, because that's part of how this works.
Oh, I opened a lot.
That's okay. Okay, so now let's go back to that sci open thing, whatever. Yep. Now click that try again button. Okay, good. Let's start end-to-end testing in Chrome.
Fingers crossed again.
Looks like maybe you have that issue. Nope, nope. It's almost there. It's almost there.
Ooh.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Awesome.
Yep. Now let's click 0 example test. I mean, at this point, Cypress is working. But yeah, let's see that first test pass ideally.
Come on. Click.
It should work. I think your computer's just straining under all the weight of all these things happening.
Yeah, it does not like Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom can be power hungry. So even this test will take a second. There we go. Test pass. Awesome.
Awesome. Amazing.
All right. Who's up next? I'm on a roll here. There's only one person left. It's just Dakota. Please just be Dakota. Suhail, I might not be able to help you.
That helped me a little bit too, but I'm still having an issue.
Can anyone just answer me? Is there anyone besides Suhail and Dakota in this room that needs help?
I don't think
Chris
so.
showed up for a second.
Sorry. I don't think so. My first test is passing. My
That's
other
all.
one,
If you can see a test pass and test 0 passes, the rest of them are not designed to pass until you pass them.
right. Okay. I mean, I did some coding, but I'm trying to figure out why it's the next one. Is it updating or reading it at all? But that's fine.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I'll try and be around Sunday or something.
Nah, don't worry. I'm good.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Cypress is open right now, and
Well,
then
that seems good.
and now I go to
Simultaneously,
this one,
yeah.
right? npm run dev.
That's where it's breaking.
Yeah,
Could not read package, no such file.
it's saying
Assessment
this
for
package is not there.
package.json.
It's right there.
Yeah, that's a little odd. But
know.
notice your thing is not called assessment for. I think here's your issue. Do like cd ... It has no idea where you are because something must have got renamed. ls. Where are you? Where are you?
I'm in the week 9 of my folder.
Okay, where's assessment -4 -decodac?
That's gotta be in this. Yeah.
Ah, there. Now try.
Oh,
NPM
that's
run
probably why, right?
dev. Yeah.
npm run dev.
So I mean, that's like a terrible error that package.json's giving you. Okay, and also, are you running this somewhere else? Because this is on 5174. So is something running somewhere else as well?
I do have another.
It's there. It's right there. Yeah. Basically, close this. Close this whole thing because chances
this
are
on
this is
the-
taking up. Well, this is a
Okay.
different project, but it's using 5170. Okay, now
So close this.
now, yeah, now run it again. Now it's probably gonna be 5173. Great.
Okay.
That's what we expect.
So it always
now-
starts on port 5173 and then moves on, like adds each time.
Exactly. Yeah. So the
Okay.
way, just in case you're using multiple, and obviously you could always go into cypress.config.js and mess with that. I'm also seeing, I know it's going to mess up. So you see that cypress.json file, delete it. That's because it's confused about your version.
Cypress.json.
.json.
Oh, right here.
That should be, yeah, delete that. Okay. Now if you go back to your thing running Cypress, no problem, Katie. End it and restart it. End it and restart it. Because I don't like, basically this is, or like maybe click the new updates are available button. Like you're running an old version of Cypress. So
okay.
Yeah, it wants you to do that. So somehow my version is like the version you guys see is way out of date, but that's the current one.
With this app, if you use npm,
Yeah. You want the npm one, copy that whole npm line.
Yeah, this one, right?
Yeah, the whole line. Yeah. Okay. So
I'll
it's all
add
right.
in
You
then.
can, yeah, you can add the end. I trust you.
All right, and then
Um,
back here,
Yep. So first run that, the npm.
run the psi or
No, run the thing it just gave you. Copy paste that.
oh, okay.
Great. So that's going to update your version of Cypress and save it in the dev dependency. So it's going to jump from whatever it was to 12.70.3. Great.
Okay.
Now run sci open. There it is. So it's got to download that now because it's never seen it before, but hopefully this all works in a second. Continue.
So yeah, this is new.
This is great. Yeah.
So
Continue.
hit continue.
End-to-end testing. Start. All right. So let's make sure test 0 passes.
Oh,
All right.
it-
Yours is working as well. Awesome. Anybody
yeah,
else?
all right. Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem.
You're
Anybody
killing
else?
it today.
I'm killing it. Yeah, I've been on Zoom all day. Anyone else?
You have a great weekend, Ben. Thank you for helping.
You too. Take care.
You have a good weekend, Ben.
Everybody's good. Everybody's good. Very happy. Awesome. All right. See y'all.
Thank you, Ben.
Been real. I'll upload all this. Ending the meeting for everybody.